All right, folks, let's follow some logic here. Okay, I was going to just leave this without a video because you can just read what I've written down in below the video. But I know some people are better listening, and maybe you're in a car ride just trying to soak up some knowledge while you drive and run your errands. So I thought it'd be nice if I went through some of this logic. I think it'll help you see that the laws of contracting and they have a logic behind them that's really sound. And once you get the logic, it all kind of falls into place and makes sense. We get into trouble when the logic is not followed, or they break one of the maxims of contract laws in the previous videos. There's not consent or not full disclosure. But when the rules of contracting are followed and the logic is followed, it all makes sense and is fair, is what I would say. So it's really when we kind of break the maxims, as I covered in the earlier video, and don't follow the logic, is when we get in trouble. So let's go through and follow the logic. Okay. So a corporation is created by a living soul. That living soul, right, gets out a piece of paper, fills out an application, creates a name, comes up in their mind, right? We are creators of our reality, and we are creator of things in this realm that we live in. So anything that's created, we can call it made up, created, or artificial. It's separate from living soul, right? Those are different things. That thing that I create, right, that name on a paper, the piece of artwork I hang on my wall, can't have power over me, right? It can't it wouldn't have existed without me creating it, writing on paper, painting and putting the thing on the wall, right? So it makes sense, right? So corporations, the only power they have is just through the power of brainwashing or the power of persuasion, the hypnosis they give to you through the TV box, right? They don't actually have any legal or lawful power, corporations. They have a little bit of power doing business between each other, right? And holding perceived value on a piece of paper. But ultimately, the power, or I like to have a whole section following the introduction, the value comes from us, the creators of these things, these artificial fictions, right? Or the things we create, right? We are the value. We create things. We create things with our hands. We build things. Corporations are not doing that. They're just really symbols on a piece of paper, ultimately. So they're not equal to living souls, and they should not, nor do they have authority over living souls. And this goes back to one of the maxims, right? Unequal things ought not be joined. You should never have a living soul contracting with an artificial fiction. They're not equal. And in the maxim video, I talk about how, because living souls have to eat and breathe, right? And artificial fictions don't. So an artificial fiction might contract to pollute the water, and a living soul is going to say, no, that's not a good idea, right? We shouldn't be joining these things, and nor should we be giving these artificial things more power over us. So corporations can only, they literally can only in law contract with other made up or artificial things. This is why they had to create the trust. This is why they had to create the birth certificate bond for all of us, in order for there to be a perceived mechanism for living souls to contract with artificial things. And you're not actually contracting as your trust. You shouldn't be. You should be contracting as the beneficiary. And therefore, all the things in that contract with the trust should be benefiting you, not harming you. Obviously that doesn't happen all the time, but that's the way the logic is supposed to work. Okay, so take the logic a little further. I believe in reincarnation, whether you do or not. Your name that you have in this life is not you. You would still exist without a name. A name is just a way for other living souls or artificial fictions to refer to your body, that you are having now. If you believe in incarnation and you've had other past lives, you've probably had hundreds of other lives with different names, right? And you were never fully just that other person either. You are the summation of all those experiences, right? So your name is just a temporary thing that you were given. That's why it's by your parents at birth, most people, right? So that's why it's called a given name. Okay. And a corporation, so when I come up with a corporation, I have every right to name a corporation of my creating after my actual given name. But that doesn't mean that corporation is me, right? And this is what has happened, is that your birth certificate represents a trust that's named with the same symbols as your given name, but it is not you. Although the corporation treats that same name as if it was you, and because they're not giving you full disclosure. So it's your responsibility to know that you are not that corporate name that they put on that paper. So again, according to the Government Publishing Office Style Manual, there's a link in one of the resources in the videos, but uppercase is used to name artificial fictions. So if you have ever looked at any sort of legal documents, if you look at your statement, any of your bank stuff, your account name, again, this is not you, your account name is always in caps. Credit card statements, bank statements, checks, that's not a coincidence. It's how they have to legally disclose to you, essentially, that it's a trust or account or an artificial fiction that you're dealing with. Okay, so John Doe in all caps is not the same thing as John Doe with a first cap letter or all lowercase. And it's not just a coincidence. It's a legal distinction. Okay. So I've kind of covered this. A trust is another type of made up, created, or artificial thing, just like a corporation. Okay, so you can have different kinds of corporations. You can have corporations that are not profit. Okay, there are corporations that are in the category of banking. There are corporations that are in the category of business. There are corporations that are franchised. There are C corporations, S corporations, LLCs, all different categories, but they all follow the same rules, and they're all there's different sections of some codes that apply to the different types of corporations differently, but they're all essentially the same thing, the same as a trust. It's just another category of a corporation, if you want to call it. And again, if a corporation, like a bank, wants to interact with you and contract with you, it has to contract with another artificial fiction, and that is going to be your trust, or they're going to call it an account. You're going to set up an account, right? An account, when you have your bank statement, your account has a number, but it also has your all caps names. That all caps names not being you, the living soul. Okay, and that's because only like things can contract. So again, when a living soul signs a document with an account name or a trust or a corporation on the contract, you are signing as an authorized representative or the beneficiary or the trustee or some other role in relationship to that account or trust or corporation. I don't have them in front of me. Where did they go? If you have an old-timey checkbook, get a magnifying glass and look at the signature line on your check. If you have them printed from the bank, there'll be microprinting on there, and they disclose that there's microprinting because there's a little MP at the end or beginning of the line, but the microprinting will say authorized representative. So when you put your signature, because it really should be by ... your signature when you sign a check, you are being the authorized representative for the artificial fiction account that is of a similar name as your given name. Okay, so it's disclosed in your check if you look carefully at there. That's their way of calling it full disclosure. Okay, so as a living soul, you are always interacting with artificial fictions, not as the artificial fiction, but as an authorized representative, trustee, beneficiary, because living souls cannot contract with made up things. They are not like things, so you can't contract. If an organization is assuming that the contract is between a living soul and a made up thing like an account or a trust or a corporation, they're committing fraud. They're committing trust fraud, actually, because they are acting, they are not acting in the best interest of the beneficiary of your trust when they are contracting with you. Okay? Some examples. Essentially, the Center for Disease Control. Artificial fiction, no power over any individuals whatsoever at all. It's only inferred power that people voluntarily give away. Same with the FBI. All of these organizations are all corporations. They have corporate charters. They have, depending on how they're structured, whether they're LLC or they all have board members. You can look them up. I suggest you do. I didn't believe this until I actually started looking these things up, and you can find their Dun and Bradstreet numbers and who is on their board of directors. So, for example, the state of Hawaii, the board of directors is Governor Ige. Conflict of interest? Let's see about that. It isn't, because it's a private corporation. It's not actually a government. And that's where we get into so much trouble. Same with California Highway Patrol. All police officers work as agents of a corporation, and that corporation usually rolls up to another corporation, but you can look into that in where you're located. Okay, so the same thing is, like we've said earlier, your given name can be the name of an artificial fiction. And in general, they usually give your, like a bank account, they give it a name that sounds like your person name, your living soul name, and an account number. And you know that it's an account because it has an account number. It's easy. There could be lots of John Joe Smiths, right? But they also give it account number to make it unique, which is why you have a social security number, and they don't, you know, and you give the number instead of just your name when you're giving your account information. Okay, I believe we've covered this in other videos, but we're following the logic here. The United States, just like all these other examples of corporations and accounts, the United States is a federal corporation. It's right there in 28 U.S. Code 3002. Okay, it's written plainly in the codes. Okay, so this is just more proof that calling yourself a citizen of the United States is an oxymoron. You can't be a citizen if you're a living soul. The fact that these terms even exist, I'm convinced, is in order to create confusion, right? And to get people to contract outside of their best interest, right? Because a citizen of the United States is a civilly dead entity operating as co-trustee or co-beneficiary of a public charitable trust. This was quoted from the congressional records in June of 1967. Okay, so your public charitable trust or your I can never say CKSTV trust, that's what is considered a citizen of the United States, not you, the living soul, who is considered the beneficiary. Okay, so here we go. John Doe Smith, all lowercase, is the living soul, the beneficiary to this public charitable trust, which is the civilly dead entity. That entity is what can engage in whether they're civilly dead entities, which are things like the United States Corporation, the State of California Corporation, the Internal Revenue Service Corporation. Okay, though that's who is engaging with each other. Okay. So again, just a reminder, every document that you sign is a contract. Whether you're signing it with your signature or your autograph is important, and you should be very clear when you sign any document from now on that you are making it clear if you are signing as the beneficiary with your signature or you're signing as a living soul with your autograph. On anytime from now on, make sure you're being very clear, because any document you sign, from IRS forms to seriously, any form at your doctor's office, literally any form. The receipts that you sign at stores, they used to make you sign them, all of those are considered contracts. So contract consciously, and now you're fully informed. Okay. If a living soul is acting, okay, they are in the capacity of an authorized representative or a beneficiary, and they're in a role, and that is considered legal, okay, as versus lawful, and that is an admiral or maritime contract with a signature, okay, and that is, you are acting your public capacity. So that the same thing is in reverse. If I am acting as the beneficiary and I sign up for a credit card application, I'm signing up as a beneficiary to create an account with a corporation who also has someone like the CEO acting in a public capacity for that corporation. And then we're going to create a contract. And in that contract, which is not fully disclosed, the company or the agent of that company acting in their public capacity is taking on the role of trustee for my public charitable trust. And I, as the beneficiary, are giving them access to my trust as the trustee. And when I sign a payment coupon, I am giving them authorization to transfer from my artificial fiction trust into their artificial account number. Okay. Any contract signed by one party but autographed by another is void, because that is combining legal with lawful or artificial with living souls. Okay, you can't do that. So you can't sign your autograph to a credit card application. You have to sign, you have to make a byline with your signature and sign as a beneficiary. Okay, and I'm going to go over this more in detail, but when a corporation like the Internal Revenue Service or like Capital One sends you a statement of any kind, you in the past might have thought it was a bill for monies owed. It is actually just a statement of what has happened in your trust account. That's their fiduciary obligation as a trustee to your account, because you gave them your trust account number, your social security number. They're giving you a statement of what's been going on in the account. And it's also considered an allegation, so it's alleged. As the beneficiary, you can handle that allegation or that statement in many ways. I go through in the payment coupon how you can use, they provide a remedy for you to tell them, yep, go for it. These charges are all valid. I validated that these are all good charges, and I, as the beneficiary, agree to them, right? You can do that with the payment coupon. But essentially, think of yourself as the beneficiary, and you get a statement from your trustee saying, hey, this is what's going on. It's their obligation to provide you with an accounting of what's going on in the trust. And it's your obligation to say, yes, I agree, pay that. Those charges are for my benefit. Okay. You can also argue it. But what most people think is like, oh my goodness, I have to go and scavenge some money at some other source and pay this allegation. That's not true. The trustee already has access to your trust account. They're just giving you an allegation, and you send it back and say, yes, of course, pay this. Those are all valid charges, and pay it through my trust. But if you choose to pay it another way, they're going to take the money out both ways, right? So I hope that this logic makes sense and flows. To me, it took a while to get it, but if you really sit with it, I think that you'll see. Like things ought not be combined is kind of the summation of all of it, right? With some other fine details about having an equal exchange and whatnot. So great. That's it for this one, and I will see you in the next video.